Friday, I would see him walking around. And I'm telling you, that guy turned into a human skeleton over like 6 to 8 months that I was working. So one of the things I want to tell people is that sometimes people are homeless because, like many Americans, they're simply proud. They've lost their income, something happened in their lives, and they don't want to go begging. They don't want to help. So they're homeless because they're sticking it out. They have found a way to survive, whether it's sleeping under a viaduct or grabbing a blanket or maybe hanging out under something that's overhanging. Maybe they're couch surfing. They're homeless because they decided to live. So instead of killing themselves, and some of them even refuse to slip into drugs like I have, right? I was traumatized by my youth by watching someone close to me be a substance abuser. So I vowed that will never be me, and it never has been. So I watched this gentleman just become a human skeleton. So a lot of the homeless, I want to tell people, they are badass. They are survivors. They are noble. I've known homeless people who are saints, who just are freaking saints. What the one lady that I feel I failed because I was trying to hook her up to social services online. Because at that time I still had a laptop and Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi. So I was able to do that, but I didn't get hip and I didn't do it fast enough. And then she disappeared. So I could never talk to her again and make it happen. So I had to leave that area, and it kind of haunts me. But this lady was a saint. She had a vocabulary that was 10 times mine. She used to be in the insurance industry. Just a really cool, classy lady, African American. And she walked around with a cart on wheels with her belongings. And she had been like this for a while. So the reason why I got to know her was because we used this freight elevator contraption to stay warm in this during the winter. And what you hear coming out of that planning commission is an absolute refusal to see the homeless as human. Like the way they talk, it was like there's no possible way any homeless person could ever possibly be human or worthy of care. The way they talked, it was the evocation of something that is almost impossible for a human to be. What they were talking about was like a beast that had to be shooed away from their neighborhood. It was nothing approaching what the homeless really are, because what the homeless are simply human, just like any of them. Some of the homeless are artists. I met a young white dude. A young white dude who walked around in the winter in a woman's fur coat. And yeah, he probably did have a drinking problem. And this guy, I tell Robin, this guy was freaking amazing because he would start talking about music and I couldn't stop him. What else are you going to do? You're trying to stay warm. He'd talk about music, and every pocket he had in his pants, in his shirt, in his fur coat, he would pull out slips of paper with lyrics. And he would talk about a variety of musical bands of different genres. And he would compare them and criticize them. I mean, he was a genius, right? And he kind of broke my heart every time he talked because this was what he loves. And when he was talking about a cultural thing, he was talking about an art. Even though he was freezing, even though he was starving, even though sometimes he peed on himself because there was nowhere else to go, right? He was miserable, just like all of us. He was still talking about art. Music was not something that could possibly help him in that winter. And just this is all he talked about. And he talked about it in a way where you had to listen. Like, I wanted to learn what he was talking about. I don't want to be the cultural illiterate that I am. So I kept trying to pay attention to him. And so he was one of these guys that I survived the winter with. And what people don't understand is you cannot use any single word and capture what the homeless are. You cannot. So when you see this army of people determined to keep their neighborhood free of a modest measure of help for the homeless, It is completely detached from reality. It is detached from decency. I actually think it is detached from the idea of what being an American is. I think it is impossible for that planning commission to happen and it be legal. I don't think that when you apply American law the way it's supposed to be applied, that that could possibly happen. That planning commission was a vehicle created so that you could have the smear campaign against a very marginalized, vulnerable people, a demographic. That was a setup. It should not have happened. It should not be happening. They have concocted this army of people who have been misled on the law so that they actually think they have something to argue with, and they don't really. They can work with the BHA, but what they're saying is not law. What we see Garrett Jackson talking about, it's not law. The letter from Jane Rebelowski and Denise Fry, the mayor's letter, where they zero in on the location and they say, well, that ARPA funding doesn't have to be tied to the location. That is a disingenuous argument. It's a cynical argument because there is nothing wrong with that location. If the shelter wants to be there, it gets to be there because that's what the state law says. So they should be finding valid reasons to argue, but they're not interested in valid reasons. They're simply interested in a cynical push to sabotage. That's all that this is. This cannot be interpreted in any other way. And it's really ugly to see. It shouldn't be happening, but unfortunately, they're determined to use this kind of incited hate to attack marginalized people.
Well, that's why they made that House bill, was to combat this, but unfortunately it just got enacted last month. So there's a lot of room there to contest this, but this is like people are suffering in the meantime, and the whole essence of these laws were to decrease this bureaucratic like stalling tactics, and just to get it. We need housing, we need shelter. Stop stalling it. You're making the problem worse. And we're still seeing the same techniques, but I do hope this will change. This is so new. It just was like June 11, I believe, when it was placed it was like online. And so we're still seeing the same semantics, the same tactics. They're omitting information about the law.
But this is how a jurisdiction, a municipality where the city attorney has ethics, this is how it should go down.
Yes.
Because that's law. So you look at that law and you say, wait a minute, city council, wait a minute, mayor, this is a law. So we have to do it. And that law says that they call it in the HB 2266, it says, we don't want you to delay what meetings that are public. We want the permitting agency, the planning agency, which is Andrea Spencer's, bailiwick. We want these pre-decision hearings to not happen. This has to be handled administratively. And the reality is that project application at that location is actually incredibly simple and narrow. It is not a complex issue. When we see Garrett Jackson doing his number and droning on and on and on and on with the verbiage, that's actually how they rigged the Evergreen Point. They will talk ad infinitum, and because we trust them, you are lulled into the sense that, wow, they sure are using a lot of jargon and they sure are going on about it, so it must be legit. No, it's a facade of professional ethics, but there are none in this town. There simply are none. If the city attorney cared, she could say, we must apply HB 2266 and stop these pre-decision hearings, and let's help these people out. To lose $1 million in ARPA funding because the deadline is in December is malfeasance. That is fiscal irresponsibility, right? And it's actually a suable offense. So that's another liability going on. If you're a city attorney, you know what you can do when the city violates law? You threaten to resign. You say, as an attorney, under the rules of professional ethics, I cannot be a city attorney if you don't follow my legal advice. If she knows that's a law, and she does, that's something she can do. She can come out in public. She can resign and then explain to the public how the law should go down, how it should play out. She can have a moral voice and a legal voice, but in this town, that's probably not going to happen.
Is there anything we can do? So you know the House bill. I have it up here for everyone to see. Is there anything that we can do? We're looking at it right here. It's like, look, this is a violation of HB 2266.
Well,
What can we do?
donate to our legal fund.
I can tell you what I'm going to do as a citizen. I'm going to start off small, and I can tell you that with Denise Fry colluding with Southwest Group for as long as she had, and for it to reach a peak in January of 2025, where they tell her to come in on the Harrison Heights master plan, right? And then for her to talk up the opportunity zone for Harrison Heights, and she never tells the public what she's been doing with Southwest Group behind closed doors, what she is omitting when she talks about the opportunity zone. She doesn't tell us that. So she is pushing this idea of hyper-gentrification while she is essentially acting as an agent of Southwest Group. You know what that is? That's a violation of the false report statute. It's a violation of the prohibited act statute that says you can't do special favors and you cannot betray a confidence. She has done all those three things, and they are all tied to Southwest Group. So you know what that is? She needs to be thrown out of office. Yes. She needs to be prosecuted.
Yes.
I'm contacting the county prosecutor, and I'm telling them, this is what is happening in this town. We need the help of law enforcement.
Can that be done?
Yes.
Legally, it should be done. So what I would suggest is, because it should be done, we need to give it voice. We need to say, help us. This should not be happening. Please help us. Do your job. Enforce the law. And with that kind of pressure, maybe that can make things happen. If the public understands, if the planning commission understands, if the city understands that we have a voice, and it includes having a legal voice, that we can reach out and make them accountable, maybe that will get them to change their ways and fix the problem that they are creating on purpose.
Is there precedent?
Yes. Thank you for asking. Seriously. In Langley, a city, there was a mayor who used to be a DCD director. Quarsick was his name.
I know who you're talking about.
So Mr. Quarsick, as a mayor, was discovered to have fiddled with a paper when he was a DCD director. He fiddled with his permitting papers to basically let a relative off the hook. The paper was a permit. And the permit said to the landowner, don't do this, don't do that. And the mayor of Langley got that and fiddled it. He changed an official document. So he lied. It was a false report. An environmental group doing public record act requests discovered that shenanigans and reported him. And the county prosecutor took action and basically sued Mr. Quarsick. So not only did he sue him for that reason, Mr. Quarsick asked for mercy, and the judge says, because the plea bargain was the mayor wouldn't do time. And the judge says, you have so betrayed your public office that I cannot let you go without you doing at least some symbolic time. So Mr.
Wow, symbolic
Quarsick,
time, right?
I mean, 2 weeks, you know what?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
It was just
Wow.
So, but honestly,
But he had to step down, right?
that makes it tangible, yes, because something else happens. When you are found guilty of this level of malfeasance, automatically you forfeit your office.
Oh, you
So
do?
You have to step down.
Okay.
And if you don't, again, the law can kick in to force you to get out of office. So Mr. Quarsick, having been found guilty of the malfeasance of false report, he was forced to forfeit his office.
So would that fall under Chad Enright, being the Kitsap County
It would.
prosecutor?
It would.
Now, do either one of you know Chad Enright, and is that something that Chad would do?
Well, here I'm glad you asked, because here's my concern. This is such a status quo. Everyone's nice. I'm going to say it. Everyone's nice and white, right? We have very nice white people who, when they look at a Puerto Rican, quoting John Adams, right? I've literally done that. That's how corny I get. I get excited to say John Adams' principle was government is instituted for the common good and not for the honor, pride, yada, yada, of one man or a class of men. That shit gets me excited, right? So I said that at council. Let's just be Americans, dude. The common good. That's what we're supposed to stand for. So when you do the opposite of that and you kind of shrink law and you misrepresent law to get away with doing wrong, it should not be the status quo that you say, no one talks about that. No one cares about that. Are you kidding? We've literally walked into Norm Dix and we overheard Chris Tibbs says, that guy owns this town, right? We've literally heard that.
Wow.
Yep. So that's the jurisdiction we're living in. So we are in a status quo. Look the other way.
And he's new.
No,
that's Tiff.
Oh, Tiff. Okay.
Tiff.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, let me dive deep
Go ahead.
for a second.
Regale me.
Poor Robin went to the council to protest the sweep of the MLK Way encampments, right? The 10 community. She went there because she was shocked by what she saw, and that's where she first met Jocelyn in person. So she goes there and she tells the mayor he should be ashamed. You're getting rid of people's survival gear. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. She goes in there and she says, Jose, it was so weird. It's like one side of the chambers of the city council is filled with traumatized people. And the other side is like a bunch of guys in suits, like jovial and talking it up. And that's where she hears, that guy owns this town. So I'm kind of new, right? I'm not quite hip. So I'm like, no, really? You heard that? What? So that is the jurisdiction we are living in. Traumatized people on one end, highly privileged, super wealthy, influential guys on the other end. So to the question about Chad Enright, I doubt it. And the reason why I doubt it is because I've heard him give kudos to Kylie Fennell. I swear to God, it's really hard for a paralegal to bash an attorney. I only ever bash an attorney when I know that they are harming people in their professional capacity. And I don't even call it bashing. It's like, we got to be accountable, right? When I said hi to Kylie Fennell at the Parks Commission, and I did it naturally, and she responded naturally, it was like a dagger in my heart because she is human, right? But that's beside the point because people are being hurt, people are dying, right? So Chad Enright had this glowing, laudatory opinion on Kylie Fennell. I can't even remember where it was. I think she had been appointed or something. So I doubt that in this town there is a capacity to do your duty while trying to hold someone that you know and like accountable, right? So I doubt that Chad Enright will do the right thing because it's hard, right? It's hard. So this is my plan. This is my brainstorm. I'm going to address my plea to the county prosecutor, and I'm going to email both Chad Enright and his competitor, the candidate, Mr. Lombardi.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to say, we need help. Whichever one of you guys is the county prosecutor, please help us. We've been dealing with a situation that is intolerable. We cannot tolerate this in American society. We cannot say that we uphold the law and allow this blatant conflict of interest. It is intended to be unfair. It is intended to push people out, to act like they can just disappear in thin air. We cannot, as citizens, we cannot tolerate that. We can't do it. There are countless societies where in the history books, we see them just take this plummet, right? They become used to the idea of some people not mattering and other people get to run the show, and they matter. They matter 1,000 times more than the regular guy. We can't allow that to happen here, no matter what your political affiliation is. no matter what your ideology, no matter what your religion is, no matter if you're an atheist, if you're a cat, we cannot allow that. We cannot do it because that means that as a society we will die. We can't do it. You know what Denise Fry says when Jack Paul was installed in the Planning Commission? She says, development is not an F word. There are stereotypes, but it is not an F word. I'm really offended, she said. And then she said, if we don't have development, we stagnate and die. And that is incorrect. You know what we need? A balance. We all need homes. So we need housing.
Mhm.
So that's development. So no one is saying no housing. No one is saying no development.
Exactly.
But it must be balanced with the human concern that we do not, in our society, we do not leave people out on the street to die.
Right.
We don't do that. And if it's happening in this town, which it is, something is broken. And it's our responsibility to fix it. It's Chad Enright's responsibility to fix it. It's the Attorney General's responsibility to fix it.
And maybe they are fixing it.
It's people too. So we need to stop depending on these people in positions of leadership, and we all need to have our own leadership, and we need to, get off our devices or whatever it is and look around at what's happening and be responsible for what's happening around us. So like people need to join in, and then these officials typically, if they're provided the pressure, things do change, but nothing will change if it's just Jose going to every meeting, and then he will become drowned out eventually.
Right. Well, I think that's kind of happening now, right? Because it's the same voices, right? It's Jose and it's Robin and it's you and it's Jocelyn and it's
people ask us, do more, do this,
right.
Do this. What can you do? Do this. You're not doing this right. It's like, okay, you come out and do it too, because there's nothing special about us. We aren't heroes.
No.
We're not trying, we're literally speaking up so that, it's selfish. We don't want this to happen to us. Right. And we want also personally, I would like to be able to drive through town and not get like morally depressed because I'm seeing things that are completely preventable and we're just driving by and normalizing
they are
it.
preventable.
My whole life. Since the 80s, I remember walking in Seattle and being morally depressed as a child for some reason when I saw a homeless person. Because I was taught, I grew up in a small town, not a lot of money, but we didn't go without, and neither did our neighbor. Right. And I know it can't be like the old days or whatever those days were called, but we don't need
no, it should be better. Right? We have the technology, we have the wealth, we have the knowledge.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And, absolutely.
And people matter, even if.
And we know better.
Yes, and we do.
Absolutely.
We do. But we need to speak up because people will come out in droves like, oh, yeah, you're right. And then no one shows up when it matters. Even just an email helps.
And I have to say something because we're all talking, and this is all what we're saying is common sense, right? We don't leave people behind. The problem is that on the council dais, they will say the exact same thing, and it's freaking PR, right? It is absolutely PR. I have another thing to regale you about, right? So the city called me Denise Fry called me large and disturbed, and I am disturbed about corruption. And Chamberlain called me an extremist and domestic terrorist. And they kept evoking the need for police security in council because of me, quoting John Adams. So they othered me, right? The campaign was about othering me and making my allies that we were all some kind of fearsome group. So the point of me saying this is that what they created was this imagery that these people have to be stopped, right? While that pause was in effect for over half a year, what we see, especially on September 24, 2025, two things happening. They start talking about the pause, and they actually mentioned their supposed solution about the pause right off the bat. Reduce the time we get to talk and putting it at the end of the meeting. So what they ended up having after like 7 months, what they already said on the first day, right? There was no problem to solve. Public criticism of government is absolutely the First Amendment. So the two things that happened is they started talking about the pause, and you see Denise Fry start to sabotage campaign.
And we're not allowed to talk about it.
So those two things happened at the same time. And so there came a time where they were just reveling in an orgy of lies. That's what it was. an orgy of lies about the shelter, about the ARPA funding, about housing, just going to town because they had no